Don't you just love those creepy old houses at the edge of town? The ones with the peeling paint and shattered windows? The ones that seem to stare at you as you pass by? Ethan certainly did. He was a thrill seeker, an urban explorer, always looking for the next story to tell his friends back in the city. When he rolled into the sleepy little village of Blackwood Creek, he immediately set his sights on the old Blackwood Manor, perched ominously on a hill overlooking the town. Shift. Ethan blinked, holding the candle higher. There, beneath the floral pattern, were faint, dark lines. They looked like veins, and as he watched, mesmerized, he could have sworn he saw them pulse. A slow, rhythmic beat that matched the pounding in his own chest. He shook his head, a nervous laugh escaping his lips. Okay, old house, you've got some tricks. He decided to explore, the single flame his only guide. They followed him. Every single pair of eyes, from stern-faced patriarchs to sad-looking children, tracked his every move, their painted gazes locked onto the tiny flame he carried. He felt like an insect under a magnifying glass, a specimen being observed. He moved faster, his heart hammering against his ribs. The initial thrill was rapidly souring into genuine fear. The shadows in the corners of his vision weren't stationary. They writhed and stretched, flowing like ink in water, always seeming to creep toward the light, drawn to the flame like moths, but with a far more sinister intent. He could almost feel their coldness, a tangible drop in temperature wherever they pooled. The house was alive. The villagers weren't telling stories. They were stating a fact. His exploration led him down a long, narrow hallway he hadn't noticed before. At the very end was a door. Slightly ajar. A strange, silvery light seemed to leak from the gap. Curiosity, or perhaps a desperate need to find an exit, pushed him forward. He pushed the door open and stepped inside, holding his candle aloft. He gasped. The room was entirely covered in mirrors. The floor, the ceiling, the wall's every surface was a reflective sheet of antique, slightly warped glass, and in every mirror, a reflection of himself stared back. Hundreds of Ethans, all holding a single, flickering candle, creating an infinite, dizzying display of light and shadow. He stood frozen, taking in the bizarre spectacle. But then he noticed something was wrong. Terribly wrong. While most of his reflections mimicked his terrified expression perfectly, some of them didn't. To his left, a reflection showed him looking calm, almost bored. To his right, another was weeping silently, tears streaming down his face. In another, his reflection was contorted in a silent scream of pure agony. It was a gallery of every possible Ethan, 100 different paths his life could have taken, all trapped in the glass. His eyes darted from one to the next, a cold dread seeping into his bones. And then he saw it. In the large, central mirror directly in front of him, his reflection was different from all the others. This one wasn't scared, or sad, or screaming. This reflection was smiling. It was a wide, predatory grin that didn't reach its eyes. The eyes were cold, calculating, and filled with a hunger he had never seen before. As Ethan stared in horror, the smiling reflection raised its free hand and pressed it against the surface of the mirror. But its hand didn't stop. It pushed through the glass as if it were water, the mirrored surface rippling around its arm. The reflection was coming out. Ethan stumbled back, his throat tight with a scream that wouldn't come. The thing that looked like him, that wore his face and his clothes, slowly, deliberately, stepped out of the mirror and into the room. It was solid. It was real, and it was still smiling that awful, terrible smile. It took a step toward him, its movements a perfect, mocking imitation of his own. The two Ethans stood face to face, one frozen in terror, the other radiating an ancient malice. The real Ethan could feel the heat of his own candle, the only source of warmth in the chilling room. He glanced down at the flame. It was shrinking, the wax melting away at an alarming rate. The shadows in the room, the ones that had been following him, were now closing in, converging on this mirrored prison. His doubled, the thing from the mirror, simply watched him, its smile never faltering. It seemed to be waiting for the light to die. Panicked, Ethan fumbled in his pocket for the matchbook. His fingers were numb, clumsy. It dropped. Italiano. The small book skittered across the mirrored floor and disappeared under a shard of glass. The candle flame flickered violently, a tiny beacon in the encroaching darkness. It was almost gone. The last of the wax was a molten pool, the wick a dying ember. The smiling Ethan took another step closer. "Don't worry," it whispered, its voice a perfect replica of his own, yet hollow, empty. "It'll be over soon." The flame gave one last, desperate sputter. For a fraction of a second, the room was plunged into absolute, suffocating darkness. Then, a profound silence. A few moments later, the front door of Blackwood Manor creaked open once more. A figure stepped out onto the porch, silhouetted against the pale moonlight. It was Ethan. He straightened his jacket, ran a hand through his hair, and took a deep breath of the cool night air. He turned and looked back at the dark, silent house, and a slow, wide smile spread across his face. He started whistling a cheerful tune as he walked down the path, back towards the village, leaving the manor and its secrets behind in the darkness. When the sun rose the next morning, only one Ethan left the village, and it wasn't the real one. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more chilling tailies, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Let me know in the comments what you think happened to the real Ethan. Stay safe, and see you in the next video.